This is Irving Waugh speaking from the Philippines. This is the first in what we hope will be a series of programs of men of the South that are now in the Western Pacific. We plan to move around out here as much as we can and, where possible, contact the Southerners we run across and bring their voices to you. When I left the States aboard a transport, I'd planned to enjoy the trip and start work after reaching Manila. But there was so much that was new to me about a troop ship that I thought the experience worth talking about. We sailed from a West Coast port with a company that included several thousand troops, 100 nurses, some Red Cross people, and a few unattached officers. The troops, for the most part, were putting to sea for the first time, and as the ship began to rise and fall and roll, they began kidding one another and asking, is this trip really necessary? Most of them lined up for the first chow, the majority testing the theory that a full stomach is best in such situations, rather than endeavoring to satisfy a sea-inspired appetite. A meal on our ship took about 12 minutes to eat, but to get to the point of serving took 15 to 20 minutes with landing craft packed in with just enough space for feet. We soon felt the crunch of the grounding, the bow doors opened, and we stepped through the water on up to the sand. We were ashore, and this was the Philippines. This is Irving Waugh in Manila, reporting for WSM.
To pay 2 red points for every pound. Save every drop of used fat every day. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Okinawa and other strategic bases should, without question, go to America. So, too, should the Curios be a part of our forward base system. Right now, we switch you to Manila for a report by Irving Waugh.
This is Irving Waugh at Supreme Headquarters. The Japanese delegation here for the Manila Conference said before leaving for their homeland today that Tokyo is more severely damaged than is Manila. I went over to the quarters occupied by the Emperor's representatives during their stay here and talked to the staff in charge of the housing and feeding. The building formerly was a 4-story apartment, but the top floor had been burned out and the roof was wholly gone. The concrete flooring of the upper story serving as a roof for the 3 floors below. Some of the windows were blasted out, but had been replaced with woven mats that fitted into the original frames and, if anything, enhanced the atmosphere of the place. The area around the apartment was almost completely razed by the fighting and fires that engulfed Manila during its liberation. The boys in the house who served the meals to the Japanese were GIs, and they seemed to enjoy the experience, getting quite a kick out of being in the center of events that held the attention of the world. They had just finished waxing the floor to the entrance hall when the delegates first arrived, and 2 of the Japanese slipped on the polished surface, and one went down on his knees. The delegation was shown to their quarters on the 3rd floor, and after cleaning up, came downstairs for dinner. They didn't bring their traditional long-handled swords to meals, but before sitting down, removed their coats and hung them on the back of the chairs. The food served was equivalent to an American general's, and they had some difficulty in handling the forks, but when the meal was over, the plates were all clean. They offered to pay for the food, and when told that it wasn't necessary, thanked the house staff for their hospitality. The first conference with high-ranking American officers lasted until 2 in the morning, and when the Japanese returned to their quarters, they immediately sat down and discussed the meeting just concluded. At 5:30 in the morning, they were still talking and asked for coffee to be sent up to their rooms. The discussions continued for another hour, and they apparently got no sleep as they breakfasted at 8:30. The boys who served as waiters noticed that there was none of the laughter and animated conversation of the meal the night before. The Japanese were quiet and tired and somewhat glum, and after another discussion among themselves, went downtown for the second and final session of the conference. There were 2 lieutenants in the party, and it was their job to look after the higher-ranking officers' baggage and to act as orderlies to the delegation. The whole group expressed a fondness for American cigarettes and bought out the available supply of 10 cartons and then gave away the ones they had brought from Japan. There wasn't a complete PX in the building, but what was available was purchased with American money. The soldier in charge of the supplies had only the American-issued Philippine pesos with which to make change. And when he handed them over to the Japanese, they picked up the bills and turned them over, and stamped on the back in large letters was the word victory. The delegates shook their heads and said, "We can't take this back to Japan." This is Irving Waugh in Manila, returning you to NBC in San Francisco.
This is the NBC newsroom in San Francisco. Over China's current trouble between Chiang Kai-shek and the communists, a late bulletin from the United Press. General Chiang Kai-shek has made a second appeal to Mo Zedong, leader of the Chinese Communists, to come to Chongqing for a conference. Indications grew today that General MacArthur intends to stage the formal Japanese surrender signing in Tokyo rather than aboard an American warship.